Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Now, yesterday I put out a video where I did a race on ACC on low fuel motorsports at Suzuka, and pretty much throughout the whole race I was just whinging and complaining about ACC. Now, this is kind of a response video to my video really, so I just want to provide some rationale for my thoughts and explain why it's just not doing it for me at all. Now, this is unscripted. I'm just going to be talking about a couple of topics which I've noted down what I mentioned in the video. Now, firstly, I'm not bashing ACC, or I'm not bashing the people that play ACC. If you love it, more power to you. Fantastic. We all like what we like, and we don't like what we don't like. Just because I think these things about ACC doesn't mean I'm right, but just because you love it doesn't mean you're right either. It's all subjective. We like what we like. Now, firstly, I do want to backtrack on a couple of points that I made in the video. Yesterday, I complained about the driving standards on low fuel motorsports. There was a couple of people that span in front of us, and I wasn't really happy with it, but that happens to any of us at any time. So I do feel a bit bad about that, because I don't usually badmouth people at all. It happens. That's just the way it goes. So the driving standards are actually pretty good on low fuel motorsports. Something happened in practice before that race yesterday which wound me up a little bit, so that probably contributed to how I felt going into the race. So I do backtrack. The driving standards on low fuel motorsports and SimGrid, when it was the SimGrid, are actually really good, so I do take that point back. Another thing I want to mention is the rage quit. Now, I never rage quit. I quit. You know, if I crash and I've got damage and I'm not going to be able to finish the race, yeah, I quit just like anybody else does. But I never rage quit. I always continue. You never know what's going to happen. So don't ever rage quit. That's not cool at all. It's not something I do. So I do regret rage quitting, but I just had enough by that point. Completely had enough. So I do regret rage quitting and saying the driving standards were bad. So first thing I want to talk about really is the online side of things on ACC. Now, ACC's been out long enough now for Kunos to have sorted that out. The game developer, they've created ACC. You can't tell me they don't have the resources to fix the online side of racing. Some kind of ranking system. Coach Dave Academy, SimGrid, they've done it. Low Fuel Motorsports, they've done an absolutely incredible job doing it. Like, they've done a superb job. I actually did a video and gave them loads of credit. What they've done for ACC is incredible. It's needed it. And even though I'm not an ACC fanboy, that a lot of people are, and believe it or not, I want people to enjoy whichever simulator they enjoy driving. So those guys that like ACC, LFM is absolutely superb, and it's given them a platform where they can race online, have some stats, have some ranking, have some splits. I think it's brilliant. So what Low Fuel Motorsports, Coach Dave Academy, SimGrid have done is perfect. I can't believe, however, that Kunos couldn't have done something similar and implemented it into the game or onto the website or whatever. I just think it's a bit shoddy. ACC, like I say, has been out long enough now where that should have been sorted. The CP system, or whatever it's called, the competition servers, well, they were a bit of a flop, weren't they? They weren't really great. That was their attempt, and that attempt was pretty bad. So that's kind of wound me up a bit, really. It's taken somebody else to fix Kunos's problem. Now, like I mentioned, ACC's been out long enough now for Kunos to have done that, to have fixed it. People say, oh, there's only so many members of staff. They've made ACC. There's obviously enough people where they can make something like that. So it should have been done. So I think having LFM or the SimGrid or Coach Dave have to fix that online side of things is a bit of a disgrace. There's obviously been some dialogue between the two to make it happen, but I just think it's shoddy. It's not good at all. But that's my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right, but that's my opinion. I think it's shocking. But I take my hat off to LFM and Coach Dave for giving the ACC community something, what they can use, what they can track, how they can compete and all the rest of it. I do take my hat off to them. I think they've done a fantastic job. The other thing I wanted to mention, which I did touch upon in the video, was the hack, the max camber, max toe, whatever it is, hack in ACC to make you go quicker. Now, that's bad that Kunos haven't addressed that issue. Now, iRacing had something similar with the weird hack for warming up your tyres during qualifying. I didn't like that at all, and I said at the time that I'd lost the love for iRacing. It was no longer a level playing field. People said, well, you can find out that information. Well, not everybody can find out that information. Not everybody can find out that if you run max camber and max toe, that you're going to go a bit quicker. So I don't think it is a level playing field at all. And as soon as an issue like that is highlighted, then I think the game developer needs to fix it. There's obviously something fundamentally wrong with the physics. Kunos need to fix it. So I don't think it's a level playing field. I don't like those kind of hacks. So that should be fixed. That was another issue. One other thing I'll mention, which I didn't mention in the video actually, but one other thing that really bugs me or bothers me is it just makes me fatigued. When I drive ACC, my eyes get fatigued. I've got to run real head motion. If I don't, then I can't play it. It just bounces all over. It looks terrible. And that a lot of people complain about that as well. So there's obviously something wrong there that can be fixed with, again, a third-party program to fix Kunos's problem, real head motion. Why isn't that in the game itself? Why isn't it fixed? I don't know. But that's another issue of mine. If I don't have that running, then I can't play it. It's unplayable. It feels absolutely terrible. The other thing I'll mention, which is quite minor really, it's not a big thing, it's the shadows. You know, the draw distance for the shadows. Now, I've looked at my graphic settings, and for some reason, I normally run FSR on quality at 80%, and for some reason, in the graphic settings, it was performance at 70%. So God knows why that's changed, but I've put it back to 80% quality, and it looks crisp, it looks nice. So I did mention in the video yesterday that my ACC looked like shit, but I've changed those graphic settings, loaded the replay from yesterday's race, and it actually looks quite crisp, looks quite nice. So that was obviously a graphical issue, but everything else was on Epic. Shadow distance, all the good stuff was on Epic. And that's been an issue of mine for a long, long time, the draw distance for the shadows. And as soon as you see it, you can't unsee it. It's just distracting. So it's a minor issue. It's subjective. It's a minor issue that bothers me. It might not bother you at all, but that's one of the things that actually grinds my gears massively. Now, one of the fundamental issues I have with ACC is the floaty car feeling. I just don't feel connected to the racetrack at all. Now, you may say, oh, it's because of your wheelbase or... So I've got a SimiCube 2 Pro. I've tried various different profiles, various different settings within the sim. I just don't feel connected at all. And there's sudden loss of grip at times where you think, what's going on there? I didn't even feel that coming. It just goes. Just goes. So I just don't feel connected. And it's just not enjoyable at all. And some people might say, you just need to practice, Dave. You just need to put the hours in. You need to practice. I'm not going to practice if it's no fun. And it isn't fun. It really isn't fun. So I'm not going to put the practice in. I just don't enjoy it. I would rather drive round on my own on R Factor 2 with no online play than feel it just doesn't feel right. And I've not felt right in any car actually. They all feel very similar. They all just feel very vague, as if you're floating with no real contact with the road surface at all. So that's one of the fundamental issues I have, is how the game actually feels. Another issue I have is braking. Now, you slam on the brakes 100%, let ABS do the work. That's what everybody says, right? And they say, oh no, that's what real race car drivers say. That's how it is in real life GT3 racing. You slam on the brakes 100%, and you let the ABS do the work. That's fine. If you're a real-life racing driver with real-life consequences, you're not going to leave it until the last minute to slam on the brakes. So there's a car here, and then there's a car here. This one brakes at 100%. This one does, but brakes a little bit later because you're going to go for the overtake. Both braking at 100%. There's nowhere to go. Absolutely nowhere to go, apart from the car behind is going to run into the car in front if everybody's at 100% braking. So it might be the way they do it in real life. It might be, but that's not necessarily how it should be done in the simulator. We're not real race car drivers, or some are, but the majority of us aren't. We don't have the skill level that those real life racing drivers have. So braking at 100%, slam on the brakes at a particular braking marker, well, it's going to end in carnage. So that's pretty much my issues with ACC. It's the toe camber hack, the shadows, the braking, the general vague feeling, and that's subjective to me. That's how I feel. It doesn't mean I'm right. People get really upset when you criticize something that they like. You know, like, hit right back at you. Well, iRacing's got shit graphics. It has. The graphics are terrible. And the pricing structure, the pricing model is terrible. It's a con. Well, it's not a con, but it's super expensive. It's ridiculous. But sometimes if somebody criticizes something, well, yeah, people criticize iRacing. I agree. It doesn't mean to say that I don't enjoy it. Like, I'm criticizing ACC. It's not going to affect your enjoyment of the simulator in one way, shape, or another. If you like it, you like it. And that's great. I'm really happy that you like it. I'm really happy. But that doesn't mean I'm wrong. But then it doesn't mean I'm right. We all like what we like. I just feel that iRacing, Race Room, AMS2, R-Factor 2 all drive better than ACC. If Race Room, AMS2, R-Factor 2 had low fuel motorsports, then I wouldn't be giving ACC a look. That's genuinely how I feel. Now, I mentioned the new DLC, the America Track Pack. I was actually invited to take part in the event, you know, the preview event, but I didn't want to do it. Just like, it's no fun to drive. So I could have taken part in that, racing against people that you watch on YouTube and all the rest of it. But I just didn't want to. I thought if I fancy it later, I'll maybe buy it. Just doesn't tickle my fancy at all. And one more thing I want to address. People say in the comments, oh, you shouldn't be saying this about this game. People might not buy it. That's not my problem. That's not my problem. Why shouldn't I be allowed to critique something just because I've got a little following on YouTube? You know, it's a little following on the grand scheme of things. Why shouldn't I be able to critique things? If I like something, I'll shout it from the rooftops, like I did with low fuel motorsports. I'll shout it from the rooftops. But if I don't like something, well, I'm going to say I don't like it. I'm allowed to. It's fine. I put a warning in the video, warning, I say bad things about ACC. If you don't like listening to bad things being said about ACC, don't watch the video. It's in the title. But again, it doesn't mean I'm right. We're all allowed to have different opinions. It's completely fine. So there we go. That's just a short video kind of explaining what I meant really. And they're the core issues that I have with the game. It's just not fun to drive. And if it's not fun, then what's the point? I've tried and I've given the game literally chance after chance after chance. Oh, I'll try it again. And you have one decent race, and then you might not have another decent race for like 20 races because there's an issue. There's an issue with the race itself, or with how it looks, or how it performs, or the good things about ACC. I will give it some credit. The loading times are blisteringly quick, and it sounds good. That's about it really for me. Oh, and the wet weather. I do like the wet weather. So the wet weather, loading times, it sounds good. The rest of it, I could take it or leave it. So hopefully this has clarified a couple of points. Yeah, I was a bit salty. I was a bit annoyed with what happened in practice. a bit annoyed because people span. That probably sparked the whole set or series of events off in the race. It's just not enjoyable to drive, but that doesn't mean to say that I'm wrong for saying that. But as I mentioned earlier on or a few times, it doesn't mean I'm right either. Right. As always, cheers for watching. See you later. Cheers. Where's the R Factor 2 code?